First, science and scientists are under attack. The chief scientist will join us shortly for his perspective on the role of science in an increasingly political environment. In recent weeks, climate change researchers have been bullied and threatened, and here in Canberra, the GM wheat experiment at the CSIRO was destroyed by Greenpeace activists. Local Greens politician Shane Rattenbury was quoted as saying that sometimes the ends justify the means. However, he denies having said that, saying he was misquoted on Twitter. And until now, the CSIRO has said very little at all. Alison Ramage reports.
The CSIRO site at Belconnen was broken into very early on the morning of July 14th. Under cover of darkness and clad in full biohazard protective gear, Greenpeace protesters set about this field of experimental wheat with whippersnippers. The entire half-hectare crop was destroyed. The wheat is part of the CSIRO's ongoing work to address food security, modifying the grain to improve crop yield. Scientists are also attempting to change the quality of the starch in the wheat to make it healthier in the face of a growing worldwide obesity and diabetes epidemic. The vandalism is a blow for Australia's peak science agency, setting these trials back by at least a year.
I was very surprised and deeply disappointed. The organisation, was, I think, pretty shocked at the fact that this had happened, because it's not something that really you come to expect of in Australia. So, we were shocked, and obviously the staff involved directly in the experiments were pretty disheartened by it.
On the day of the protest, Greenpeace justified the action by questioning the safety of the experiment and the secrecy surrounding it.
Greenpeace has put in freedom of information requests to get the details about the risks around testing risky GM wheat on Australians, and had those rejected as commercial in confidence.
That was so broad, it was very, very difficult to do anything with it. And the organisation has somebody who's responsible for those things, and they are negotiating with Greenpeace around making it a bit clearer what they want.
Direct action is nothing new as a means of protest or bringing about social change.
Whether it's been the Vietnam War, the anti-whaling movement, the anti-nuclear movement, the anti-apartheid movement, there's a rich history of people at times undertaking activities that's considered unlawful in order to highlight an issue that they consider to be a greater issue than perhaps a simple trespass charge.
Greens MLA Shane Rattenbury is no stranger to all this. Before being elected to the Assembly, he spent 10 years working for Greenpeace, mostly as a political and policy advisor, but also at the sharp end on anti-whaling ships. He says deciding just how far to go for one's beliefs is a deeply personal matter.
I think this is a matter for individual choice. People have to decide what's acceptable. Certainly, I felt for me it was very important to go to the Southern Ocean and put myself in that position between the harpoons and the whales. That was an activity that I chose to undertake because I believed it was an important thing to do. In this circumstances, clearly the individuals involved here have taken that decision.
And they'll face the full force of the law. The Greenpeace GM protest is still being investigated by police. Last week, detectives from the ACT raided Greenpeace's headquarters in Sydney, confiscating various unspecified items. No charges have been laid yet. While breaking the law isn't new to Greenpeace, this was the first time the organisation in Australia had done anything as drastic as destroying scientific research.
They're all incredibly passionate about stopping our daily bread from being taken over by foreign GM companies. Our most important staple crop and an export crop worth $4.7 billion to Australia is too important to just hand over to the likes of Monsanto.
There is an I in our name, CSIRO. We are supposed to be industrial. We are supposed to be a link between pure research and applied. We work with a tremendous number of other people and collaborate with a lot of them. We work with international people, both universities and multinationals, because we are just a very small part of science in the world. We do very good science, but we're still a very small part. They have technology, they have know-how, they have intellectual property that we believe are important to bring in for the benefit of the Australian community. So that's why we work with them. And I would just point out we don't do work with Monsanto in wheat.
Shane Rattenbury believes the controversy in the wider community regarding the protest is due, at least in part, to the way Greenpeace went about it. And he says the organisation has its work cut out for it to reverse lingering negativity.
Yeah, I think there's a real job there for Greenpeace to really work hard now on communicating some of the issues that they were focused on and explaining, engaging in that debate, talking more with the community about why they took the action they did, because I think people were really surprised by the action. They didn't appreciate the context, and I think that has made the public debate narrower because people have been focused on the illegal activity.
This issue has clearly led to some hand-wringing within the Green movement. Shane Rattenbury admits that while he understands the frustrations that led to the protest, he has mixed feelings about the way in which it was carried out. And he's careful to point out that the Greens support the CSIRO's work up to a point.
The Greens are strong supporters of the CSIRO. We think that it's important that we have a strong national research organisation. Certainly we are concerned to ensure that the CSIRO continues to have a strong stream of public interest research and is not simply channeled down the path of research that's focused entirely on commercial outcomes through a necessity to chase that funding stream.